Dr. Marshall. Yes, she's Dr. Marshall. And to all the other persons, all the persons from Heartease, Greenvale, and my church in Christiana, welcome. And of course, if there's anybody from Porus and Balaclava, as Sister Marsha had already welcomed you, welcome. And I am here to just introduce our guest speaker. To some of us, he is no stranger. Absolutely no stranger. As a matter of
Marcia, Pastor Marcia, you're muted, sir.
I am okay now, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes, and as I was saying, we are glad to have our presenter tonight. He is our preferred facilitator. We have gone all around, and this man is just the one that everybody wants to hear. So I will now present to you just a few words on who this facilitator is. Pastor Dr. Lyndon Johnson is a well-renowned chemist, yes, chemist, innovator, known for Technosol Limited, producing oils for culinary and therapeutic products, yes. He is the pastor of the United Pentecostal Church in Oxford. That's that Oxford after going on to Sablamar, so in St. Elizabeth. And he's a teacher, husband, father, and friend to many. His name is always at the forefront of our minds when we think of an individual who is, balanced in his spiritual and temporal life. Hence, we thought it fit to request his tutelage and, in guiding us on how to strike the balance with the spiritual and temporal demands of life. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and well-wishers, I present to you at this time Pastor Dr. Lyndon Johnson and the Holy Ghost, who will be going right ahead and to say, "Thus said the Lord." God bless you. Let's clap our hands where you are and welcome Dr. Lyndon Johnson. Over to you, sir. You want to pause a bit, Dr. Lyndon Johnson, sorry? You want to pause a bit? You are coming in choppy. As a matter of fact, we are not even hearing you. I don't know if our technicians can do anything or you can do anything, or you might need to go out and come in again.
You're not hearing.
We're not hearing anything.
Could you try without your video? The video is using up the bandwidth.
All right, am I any clearer? I've just cut out the video, but is it any clearer?
Definitely, sir.
All right, okay, good. So we'll just push them rather than try to change networks. So I'm just happy that for the very kind words. And as I said, Brother Tony, if at any time there is any distortion and so on, just please indicate it. And I'd be just happy to see what adjustments can be made. But thank you very much for the kind thoughts to Bishop Morris and to all of the noble ministers, and to just the Sunday School department, your president, all members of staff, all the students, teachers, just all who have invested this moment. And a number of persons from different areas have been indicated, but just bless God for your coming and for us being able to spend these moments together. All right, so I will try to move with some expedition. I gonna be addressing the matter of balance. So the attempt will be one where I'll just try to lay forth a broad base and then try to narrow it down with some specific examples. So I'm hoping, so let me just give a sense for what is going on tonight. I do know there's a lot of competing activities going on, and for many and various reasons, there may be persons who are not able to join us tonight. So please feel free to act as trainers. So whatever it is I can share, then it's not patented material, it's not copyrighted, in that sense. I want you to feel free to see if you can incorporate it in what you do, perhaps at other times in the month, if you can use it to strengthen other people. Some of these are work in progress because there's no perfecting. There's no how to book that we came with that gives us the perfect path that we need to travel in order for everything to be just awesome and great. Many of us go through days and there are hills and gullies of life. And there are times when we just have to ask, because the questions are often being shouted louder than the answers. And so therefore we learn. We take the day, we try to graduate from the day and then to start the other one, knowing fully well that there may be some things that we're going to face that have never been this way before.
If I might interrupt,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. The fact that you are saying that we should be the trainer, I might ask if it is not done yet that we record Minister Marvin Clark, that we record this session, if you don't mind.
We recorded
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, man. And in thinking about it, Brother Tony, I just figured that how do we help as many as possible? Because many times loneliness of what you're going through can be really crippling, and especially where you feel you're struggling. But as Elijah found out, sometimes when you think you're alone, you only feel lonely. But there are a lot of other people who are going through similar situations, similar struggles. And so therefore, I see tonight as kind of honest, like a heart-to-heart talk in a sense. So I just say we'll be kind of drilling down a little bit in some broad areas and then try to narrow it down to some specific case and situations that may be more, familiar to many of us. So now, balance. We see it all over the place. It is one of the essentials of life, a delicate synergy of many different factors that are interacting, and this set of interactions must be kept in a certain ratio or a certain way for there to be even life as we know it. It's as broad as that. The fine-tuning of the very earth in which we live, there's a very delicate balance. We're not going to go there, but just to mention in passing that the very environment in which we live, the earth on which we are residents, there's a very delicate fine-tuning of what God did that made this place habitable for us. And part of what some people raising the alarm about regards to some of the climate issues are issues of what happens and how does our environment and habitat behave when things start to go out of balance. But as I said, I will not be going in more detail than that. But let us, for instance, plants. So I remember once having to, a word of encouragement to a group, and the Lord had dropped a word on my heart: up, down, and across. I can't tell you, brother. It was some special service Bishop Frank Otto was having one time at the could have been one of the big hotels in Kingston, and I was guest speaker. And that was all I got when I prayed about, okay, Lord, from the younger to the elder, what am I going to be saying to these noble people? And those were the words that just fell on my heart. From up, down, and across. All right, somebody just asked in terms of seeing the facilitator, we seem to be having a little bandwidth issue down my end. It could be the traffic on the network down here, so it was just some distortion. So just if you joined us, I've kind of cut the camera because apparently they, we're having a little sort of effect in terms of the quality. But I can try it again. Just let me give a few minutes, hope that everything has settled down. And then if it is stabilized, then fine. Otherwise, I might have just cut the video again. All right. So now, Brother Tony, I'm going to try the video one more time just to see.
A problem. It's a problem. You have to go back to cutting the video, sir.
The peak hour down my end, and it looked like the network in terms of support of my Wi-Fi down here seemed to be a little bit slow. So you're seeing that distortion. So please, everybody, just bear with me. And Brother T, maybe just remind in the chat that, because of the distortion, we have to just go videoless. But hopefully, maybe later on, as the peak hour passes, then we can again attempt. Plants grow in a way for them to be balanced and for them to be able to support the success of whatever it is. It's a fruit tree, for instance, of what it bear. Then it have to be doing multiple things at the same time. And it have to be doing it in a way that is connected and that is balanced. And so, for instance, it goes up, it goes down, and it goes across. All right. I'm hearing some talking, so maybe somebody needs to do some muting on your end. All right. So the plant grows in multiple directions, and it does it at the same time in a way we call, so it grows up. While it is growing up, it is growing down, and while it is growing down, it is going across. And why is this balancing act necessary? If the plant simply grows up faster than it is growing down, it is going to become unstable. So it's going to become top heavy because the above ground part of the plant will be much heavier than the capacity of the below ground part of the plant to support it. And as a result, when it comes under stress, if anything should actually push it or exert a force on it in certain ways above ground, it will easily be toppled because it is not balanced. In addition to that, not only must it be growing up and down, so as you well know, it's going up towards the light. It is growing up, in our sense, we'd say in worship, we go towards His glory. But while it is doing that, it must become more stable. So it has to grow down into the earth. It has to get nutrients. It has to become more sort of stabilized, to be anchored, to have to be able to absorb water and all of these various things that take place under the soil. So there's a whole heap of things that we do not see that must be happening at the same time as what we see. And bear this in mind, because a part of what we're discussing as balance will be what you call your public life, but also what you call your private life. So there will be some parts of you that we readily see, especially in your corporate interactions at church. And then there will be some other parts of your life that we don't see. But these attention will have to be paid to all of these. And then while it is growing up and down, it's also growing in what we call girth. It is getting wider. It is getting stronger, because as the plant gets older and older, a measure of its success, in a sense, will have to be its ability to bear load, to carry load. And most time the load it going to carry, it will be its own harvest. Sometimes it will have to carry the weight of whoever going to climb it to reap the harvest. Because you and I know, if the plant grows up exponentially compared to how it is able to become strong, then if you go to try climb that mango tree or pimento tree, the tree is likely to break. Or if that tree becomes heavily laden with fruit, the weight of the fruit may well break it. And so therefore, balance requires multi-dimensional growth at the same time. It must happen, because anything out of this is going to result in situations which make it unstable, which in fact, in some extreme situation, make it dangerous. So we don't want to have people become dangerous because you're top heavy. We don't want people to become dangerous because you have kind of moved so fast, so quickly that you're unstable, and therefore when you become successful, the weight of your success is not counterbalanced by your capacity to bear that weight. And if that does not happen, then because there are people for whom success has been dangerous. It has broken them. Some people have been broken mentally. Some people cannot keep up with it, so they end up in the wrong company. Some people, just in order to keep at the pace of their success, they end up abusing substances, sometimes prescription drugs, sometimes all kind of other things. Some of them laying themselves careless because they are not balanced. Again, we see when we look at our food and our intake as far as nutrition is concerned, that people discuss a successful and a proper nutritional approach to life as a balanced diet. Why is this so? It is because there are a range of foods that are required to be taken in at the same time, because our bodies are designed to be digesting, to be assimilating, to be utilizing different types of intake of foods, nutritional support for different functions at the same time. So while your body is using the protein intake for building muscles and for growth and for cell and so on, you have to also take in carbohydrates for energy, vitamins in terms of immune function and various other sort of function, fats in terms of cell structure, your fiber intake, veg. Some people ignore it, they don't like it, but then there's a very important part of our structure that needs support, which often is just your gut and some of what is needed, not just for movement of things from your mouth to your anal outlet, but also for the supporting of microbial growth within your intestinal tract. And it has been shown that a lot of this is very important in terms of your immune function, your ability to digest food. And so all of these have to be kept in a very delicate balance. So while there may be moments when more protein is required because of what you're going through, or at a certain other time, more vitamins are required because of a certain episode or a certain moment in time. But in the general scheme of things, in the overall sort of structure and summation of the whole matter, at the end of the day, we need to make sure we have a very reasonable and continuing balance. And included with this is also a matter of water, because there must be a balance with the intake of water. We call it hydration, relative to the other things you're doing. Otherwise, your body will be suffering some effect or the other, simply because you are unbalanced. And then there are other things that we bear in mind, including in also all of this, would be also the issue now of just rest, of how do we manage ourselves at different times? How do we manage and balance? And we're going to come back to a few of these later on. How do we manage the matter of stress? How do you manage the issue of sleep? How do you manage just being able to look at the type of activities you do and the kind of pace at which you're able to do it, and how to structure what you're doing in such a way so that in an overall bigger picture, there is this thing we call balance. Years and years ago, Brother Tony mentioned my chemistry background. Years and years ago, I still remember there was a Le Chatelier's principle in chemistry, well, kind of physics, chemistry. But what it says that if you have a system that's at equilibrium and you disturb it, then that system, by the disturbance, goes out of balance. And it will exert influences to try to regain a new level of equilibrium. No, what do we mean by this? You can, all right, let us just imagine that we have a balloon that we have blown, and I have it in my hand. So you can just let your imagination help you here. If you blow that balloon and you tie the end, so you have a round, nice balloon. But if I take the balloon and squeeze it, so it's not bursted, I just squeeze it. What I've done is exerted a force on the balloon, and because of that, it displaces how the air is arranged in the balloon, and the shape of the balloon changes. But because I squeeze one end of the balloon, the other end of the balloon have to compensate for that squeezing because the pressure has changed where it is. So it go and pulp out. It go, and this is just an example of life. And it's an extremely important example of life. Once you throw a system out of balance, there is likely to be the need for some compensation. For you to go back to a state of stability, then something need to compensate for whatever it is that went out of balance. And better yet, you need as quickly as you can to bring back your system into balance. Under abnormal condition, we have moments when things are not usual, but as quickly as we can in what we call the just normal routine way of doing things, we want to remain in balance. We continue talking about balance, and you're going to see all over. The priest of old, when the priest in the book of Exodus was described, and I'm just summing it, he had to carry something on his heart. He carried the names on his emotive center, his feelings. The heart it kind of denotes a matter of your feelings, your emotions, your sort of that sense of the softness. And so on his heart, he carried the names of the tribes of Israel. On his heart, he carried some things that were called Tumim, Urim and Tumim, lights and perfections. And these were things used in those days to kind of try to determine the will of God. I don't know, I can't tell exactly how they use it and so on, but mention is often made in trying to find the will of God. Then God speaks by the Urim and the Tumim. These were gemstones that were built into the garment, the robe of the priest, but it was carried over his heart. So we need to have a sensitive, emotive disposition towards people, towards finding and living within the will of God. But then for the priest to be balanced, he had to carry something else on his forehead. So what he carried on his heart, driven by feelings, had to be counterbalanced by something he carried on his forehead, what we call head, his calculative center, the center of pragmatism. Holiness unto the Lord was not carried on his heart. It's not a feelings matter. It is a pragmatic matter. So on his forehead, what the old people call head, on his forehead, he carried the inscription, holiness unto the Lord. Now, why was this balance needed? Because there are certain times when in order to be in the will of God with regards to holiness unto the Lord, if we are driven by feelings, then our feelings can sometimes fail us. Feelings can be manipulated. Feelings can be affected by our senses, what we see, what we smell, where we are, just or what touches us or what we touch. And all of these combination of factors, some of them chemical in nature, they can affect your mood. If your mood is manipulated, then it can affect your posture with respect to holiness unto the Lord. So where did the Lord put holiness? Not on your feelings. He placed it on your head. It is a calculative issue. So therefore, it is more akin to, I want to eat lobster. The lobster look good. Lobster is my best dish. But is there enough money in my pocket to pay the bill after I finish eating? No, that is very important. Because the paying of the bill is what we call consequence. Eating the lobster, you can order as much as you want. But when the whoever is serving you come and say, are you ready for the check, sir? No, that is not the time to wonder whether it was a free customer appreciation day or not. You should have known how you plan to pay for what you consume. And this is where pragmatism comes in. Driven by feelings, you just order what you want. But driven by pragmatism, you measure what you order within the context of what you can afford. Otherwise than that, you're going to get into problems. And so be it. That is a balancing of feelings versus pragmatism. And that becomes important. Now, let us try to bring it a little closer home now. And let me address for a moment those of us who are students. So you're a student. You're with us tonight. Maybe you're tertiary, maybe you're secondary. we could well have been blessed by somebody who's at a primary level and was just being interested in to be with us. Whichever the level you are, there are certain things you must balance if you plan to be a successful student. We expect you to study because you're going to have an intake of information, and there must be some time spent being exposed to that information, either going through it by reading, writing, discussion in study groups, going over matter with your lecturers or your teachers or whomever. Whatever be the means by which the study takes place, it is really the mechanism by which information is being transferred from the pages of the book or from the knowledge center of your lecturer into your knowledge center. You cannot be a good student and study is not a part of your routine. You must be able and must be willing to study. But what we have discovered, if all you do is spend your time staring at the pages of the book, saying you're studying, it often becomes counterproductive. So you find you spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours staring at the pages of the book. But the question is, are you being effective in absorbing information that is there? Because what if you're already saturated? What if, based on how God built your body and our capacity for attention, you need to take breaks and to interject other things, including as part of your studentship? So you have to build play or recreation. You must be able to allow your brain to rest. You must be able to allow laughter and some that allow your body to relax. Other than that, you may spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours staring at the pages of the book. And when you're finished, you cannot remember one God thing you're staring at, because your body was not made to function that way. So we need to build recreation. You must also include the issue of rest. And within all of these, you're talking about sometimes you're in a household, so you can't say because I'm at school, there are no chores that you need to do. You're going to need to build into your own set place of responsibility in the family. There may be some things you need to do to carry the load of the running of the house, and that help the family to run smoothly. So that is a part of it. You also need now to also remember that you're a praise entity, a carrier of the glory of God. And so you go and balance into all of the foregoing times when you spend pursuing the presence of God in worship. It may be congregational as a church or in Sunday school. It may be private, and we're going to come back to this again a little more. But there must be that thing that cause not just the earthly and the earthly focus, but also the focus above. And I also scribbled a note to myself when I was trying to do this, because there are times when, and this is for students, there are times when as students you forget a very, very important thing that can be the difference between either failure or success, or even if you are successful in passing the exam, the quality of your pass. And I call this exam practice. You have to balance studying to include preparing for exams, because that is a means by which you will be able to go through the routine of what you're going to do, and this is how people will assess you. And so therefore we want you to remember that not only are you going to be studying the material, but then while you are doing that, you also want to be able to take exam past papers, and you want to practice. You want to put yourself under the conditions under which you'll be tested, which sometimes mean you're going to have to put yourself on a limited time period. You're going to look at the average time that the exam would normally go for, or how much time is allotted per question, and force yourself to be able to answer questions within the time you're going to have to answer it in the exam. That's a part of balancing. All right, let me use a football equivalent. There's a good reason, in addition to training, why good coaches will have their teams play practice matches. It is extremely important for you to put the team under the stress of match conditions to see how they will function, because the more you get them prepared for match conditions, is the better they will function in competition. Are you following me? And that is very important. And so I will say to you, if you're a student here, please remember to study. Remember to have recreation. Figure out some way. In my case, I usually play a whole heap of football. And sometimes after you're done studying, man, you just go blow it off and say, go, you know, lot run up and down. You have to be prepared. And often you find that the recreation assists in your rest. Because if you're not resting properly, it's going to be very difficult for you to continue to study and to absorb material at the rate you need to absorb it in order to be successful. You need to keep at the altar. You need to keep worshipful. And one of the things we did in my days doing this is we just formed groups of us, and we would assign different persons past paper questions for them to go and prepare them, go and ask the lecturer, make sure it is graded, make sure, you know, any comments are noted. So when you come and present your answer, number one, we know it right. Number two, we know also any deficiencies in it. So we know what else we need to do based on the comments of the lecturer to get a proper grade. And all of this becomes very, very important. Now, let me give a testimony here. When I went through first degree, so I have a major in chemistry, but I also went to grad school. So my post-grad studies, my doctorate is in natural product chemistry. And that's the basis for part of the business I do now. But here, what a situation I face, and this is the same topic of balance. When I went to grad school, there were certain kind of rule of the thumb and cultural practices of the, of the institution. So we were told, well, from about 8:30 till about 5, you're going to spend it in the lab. You're going to be doing bench work. You're going to be doing research. You're going to be doing experiments. You're going to be putting together all kind of this and that. And then you're told you're going to take a little break. And then the library closes at about, say, 10:30 in the night, 10:30, 11. So you're going to go to the library. You're going to keep up to date with the literature. You must go read journals. You must go read books. Because you must be back. This view was you're balancing your laboratory capabilities with your theoretical preparedness. This is a system I landed in. But I had a big problem. Here was my problem. I was realizing I was knowing a whole lot more about chemistry than I was knowing about God. And I said, no, this is not right. I was feeling unbalanced. So I already had a first degree, honors degree in chemistry. I'm now doing graduate chemistry, whole heap of chemistry. But I'm a Christian who happened to be a chemist. And I realized I was not knowing enough about Christianity to balance what I was knowing about the sciences. So you know what, I decided to go to Bible school. 3 years of commitment between, and at that time it was in Pentecostal Tabernacle in Kingston. It's a 3-year commitment, about 3 days per week it was, from about, say, 6 to 9. And at that time I was not even driving. So you have to have public transport. And I felt it necessary for my survival as a Christian to go to Bible school. But I'm up against a problem. The university of which I'm a part expect me between 6 to about 10 in the night to be in the library. And I'm planning to go to Bible school. Now, how that going to work out? I prayed a prayer. Brother Tony, I don't know if you have ever heard me say this before or not. I said, God, I was researching a certain medicinal plant, and I needed to find what was in it, to isolate what was in it, to purify it, to do what is called characterization, to tell its structure and how it behaves and them kind of things there, and then to be able to publish this in the form of a thesis. And I went into prayer. I said, Father, you make the plant. You know where you put in there. You know where in there. You know exactly what I need to do to find it. So I'm going to ask you, please. I don't have the time to spend that everybody else will be spending in the lab, because I want to learn about you. I want to be able to answer the questions that are affecting me. I want to drill down into knowing you and the hunger and thirst after righteousness, which I'm feeling. I needed to be satisfied. But if I try to do both, it cannot happen. So here's the deal I'm making. And I made a deal with the Lord. I said, Lord, I am going to pursue you. Now go Bible school. 3 years. That means I have to go surrender all of these times I'm supposed to in the library, because I'm going to be in Bible class. But I said, but Father, I'm going to ask you, let not the time be wasted. So let me not spend a whole heap of time I shoot in the dark or this and that. My research must be targeted. You're going to have to show me exactly what the thing there, so I don't Nobody noticed that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And that is exactly what happened. Another day, another time when we are roasting some breadfruit or you carry some fried fish, come check me down in St. Elizabeth. We can sit together and I can tell you the depth of the testimony. But the short of it was the Lord was able to guide me, to bless me, to enable me to use the right equipment, to make some connections across different universities across the globe. So equipment we never had at the UE. I was able to interact with universities in Canada, in Great Britain. And so we were able to accelerate some things that would normally take whole heap of years and got it done very quickly using some very powerful techniques to the extent that I was able to successfully go through all of that. And I reminded myself of this in coming here. So now I was going to create an imbalance if I desired to go to Bible school. But I made the correction by asking the Lord to compensate for it by shortening what time it would take me to find certain components of the plan and the effort it would take to come up with the structure, whatever I needed to do to be able to successfully graduate. And the Lord, as he did for Jabez, granted my request. And I can say to somebody who's a student, do not believe that the time you invest in the work of the Lord is wasted time. It will be wasted if you are doing it as unto man. But if you should come and say, Lord, this is who I am, this is what I've faced, these are the limitations of it, I'm going to ask you to hold my hand and to gently guide me to be successful, to expedite things, to get things done quickly. And I'm pretty confident based on my experience that God have a way of leading you so that whatever the time you invested in him, whatever the resources you invested in him, you are properly rewarded, so you are no worse than your peers. Do you remember Daniel and the Hebrew boys when they decided not to defile themselves with the king's meat? And they asked whoever their supervisor, give us pulse and water, whatever, some vegetable, something or whatever it is that they constituted. But he was worried about, if I ever make Uno look worse than everybody else, then my head will be taken off by the king. And so they asked him, test us for a period of time, 10 days or something like that. And if we look any worse, then feed us like everybody else. But if not, then give us our wish, because we prefer not to eat of the king's meat. They were tested. They were seen to be fairer and fatter. And as a result, they were taken off the prescribed dietary provisions that is supposed to make them look good. And God took the vegetables and whatever the simple things that they had and made them look fairer and fatter than everybody else. So God have a way of maintaining balance in ways that we don't even understand how it gets done, but it gets done. All right, I'm going to sprint a little bit because I want us to go down to where we can have a little wrap. So I'm going to touch a couple other points and then just to bring to your attention a couple of things. Balance requires that as family, and I realize that it's a broad kind of base group based on what was indicated that maybe on tonight, people of different age ranges. And so I will just mention some things in passing, but maybe in another setting where we're talking just married couples, there may be some details we'll go into, or if we're talking singles, there may be some details we'll go into, but no, I'm just going to be as general and kind of, just open to some general principles and broad outlines. In a family, there must be a balance between how husband interacts with wife. So we're just going on a family thing. Because there must be a time when you're not daddy, you're hussy, you're not mama, or you're not chef, or you're not house cleaner, you're wife. And many times relationships suffer because of the lack of balance. When to be daddy, when to be the picker-upper of who we will drop off to the various schools and to the various games and whatever it is, and when to be the husband or when to be the wife. There must be a balance. Daddy must also know when he's daddy. This is when he's interacting with his children. And there are times when some of us, even as ministers, we need to know when to put on the briefcase. We need to know when to put on the ministerial title. Because there are, if you are elder, or if you are bishop, or if you're apostle, or whatever it is, the title you're called by, then somebody having such a heavy title is going to have a difficult time playing, ride the donkey with your little 2-year-old son, because that is an undignified thing for elder. That's an undignified thing for bishop and for Sunday school director. However, if you are daddy, then that is what daddy do. Daddy go fly kite. Daddy walk up and down with him son and them fling rocks, do some stupidness that do, under normal conditions of your nice stiff upper lippy briefcase carrying title. That is beneath you. But this is exactly what is needed if you are going to be a father. And I remember poignantly just one person one time saying to me, and it was while at university, somebody I knew very well. And just out of the blue one day we were just talking, and the person said, I didn't have a father. And I was very surprised because I knew her father, a well-known minister. And I said, what you say? The person said, I didn't have a father. And I said, what do you mean by that? The person responded, I had a pastor. I didn't have a father. And it was with a view of, and I've never forgotten it, and I've tried to be thus guided by that, to say, God, teach me and help me to be balanced. So I know when to be Elder Johnson, I know when to be Dr. Johnson, I know when to be Papa Johnson. I know I'm learning how to be Grandpapa Johnson. See, I have to go back down to a baby, a different matter than all of these nice conference presentations and so on. You have to turn fool some of the time, because that's what is required for the age of the child you're interacting with. And we must know when to put down the briefcase. Similarly, wife, you have to know when you're mommy. So you're no longer first lady or Sunday school director, but you are just mommy. Drying some tears, putting band-aid over some scrape up knee, doing something will help somebody who don't feel so well because of whatever they're going through, to be able to just come lay down in my bed, come lean on for me. And by doing that, you help your children to be better. Balance. Balance is also required for siblings. There may be in a household multiple children who have to interact in different ways. And sometimes if it is not properly balanced and all the parents deal with the group of children they have, you might have problems. Rivalries, uneven treatment, preferences, favoritism can lead to very big problems. And also, father and mother, one of the things I set up a parent recently, there was no manual that came with the baby. No, there was no operating manual that came out with the afterbirth that you could say, okay, good. So this is now George, and this is how George must be treated. These are the things that will get George to be turned on to studies, or to be disciplined, or to be whatever it is. We all have to learn the same way, often by trial and error. So we use prior experience of others, but only as guides. We have to recognize that each individual is different and must be treated differently. And we therefore need to balance that treatment, not merely in terms of the successful part, but also in terms of disciplining. And so all of this become a big part of a compact of how we need to be balanced in order for the family to be whole and to be wholesome. And then we have that group, we call them the family. How do you balance family life with church life? Different responsibilities. So the family become a unit that's a part of a bigger group. That's a church. No, there may be activities that are going on in the church that sometimes can be overwhelming for the family, depending on what the family is going through, depending on the other conflicts of activities, or the stage of life, or the state of health, or it may be different things for different people. But required is a certain type of balancing between our duty of care and responsibilities with respect to the family on the one hand, and the church group on the other. How can we look at that delicate just service to both, attendance-wise, resources-wise, time allocations, and so on? And then we add to this now another arrow that point to the community. Because the family in the church sees itself also as an organ of outreach into the community. So we're interacting with people who are not members either of our family or of the church. And we also need to be successful in doing that. And so therefore, one have to advocate, how do we make sure that we are balanced in a way that we are carriers of the light of the Lord, that we are good and faithful with our family lives, with things we are able to do together, both in terms of worship, both in terms of just knowledge and exchange of knowledge, but also in terms of games. One of the things that we, from time to time, practice in my own family, and I sometimes just play some games. I remember in the early day, we have what's called a joke night, where we go find a joke and come. And we sit down as a family, and we sit down and chat and laugh. Because you want to grow in not just a spiritual dimension, but we also want to grow as social creatures. You have to also talk about just sitting down and dining around the table. How do we make sure the children can use knife and fork? Or the so-called things of etiquette, How do we ensure that things that when they grow up and go out, they are going to need to know some of these things? Some you try. I don't know. You can't guarantee that they'll always learn and absorb it. But at the very least, what we can do is try. Again, I reiterate the point. As family, we need to build into family life rest, recreation, nutrition. In addition, and I'm going to touch spiritual balance next, so the matter of worship and some of these other things are there. Financial sort of responsibilities have to be balanced, because you have to be balancing the need of the children, the need of the family, in addition to the kind of need or comfort of the various persons within it. So you don't want, for instance, that you have a, pardon how I say this, right? You have a top of the line beamer against one little lean up pop down zinc fence place. Because whereas every resource was spent in buying that beamer, not enough has been spent in looking at the accommodation that is required by the family and the kind of nutritional support required by the people living in that house. You better just stand down a little bit from the top of the line vehicle and be a little bit more modest there, so that you have more resource to deal with other things, including school fee. Because there are some of the school people will tell you that sometimes the cars are top end, top of the line. Them school fee, they a problem to collect them. Because most times the person may be just one or half a paycheck away from being broke, because things are really not balanced. And by the way, we are just saying this so that we can be encouraged and to realize that we have to put out the effort. Sometimes it requires paying the price. Sometimes you have to eat some humble pie. Sometimes you have to stand down on other people's expectations. Sometimes you cannot wear another person's prescription lens, because what was designed for them based on their deficiency. If you ever try to run your family like the Joneses, then you're going to have pure blurring and distortion. Because you don't have the problem they had. You don't have the problem they have. So you cannot pretend to be them. I'm sorry. How they were socialized, the kind of experiences that they have, these are different from your family. And so within the context of your experience and of your family, this is how you're going to now try to manage your affairs. All right, so finally, and again, I know we can open if there will be any comments or questions. There's an element to the balance that is vertical. All right, let me put it in this context. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. There are two levels that are dealt with there: the vertical plane and the horizontal plane. So we loving the Lord with all our heart and so on and so forth is looking up, the glory view. So that's on the vertical plane. So there is a balancing of the loving of the Lord our God with all our hearts, with all our strength, with all our mind, with all our, and now we have to counterbalance that also now with what happens on the horizontal plane. The plane where you see a neighbor, where you see people, where you see somebody who sit next to you whether in class or in church or in your community, our neighbor as ourselves. And so therefore, we have to be prepared to bear in mind the requirement for operating in these multiple levels and dimensions. So when I desire to love the Lord my God with all of my heart, in the vertical plane, it may be public or it may be private. And by private, I mean when you get up by your bedside and you make an altar, or you find like a corner in your house, or you go around tree round about, or one like a place where you find solitude. But this is where you interact with God and where you pursue his glory. Oftentimes that spiritual relationship is private. But also there's the element that is public, which is where we now come together as a church, where we have kind of corporate worship, a praise and worship team, lays a platform of praise that assists us in entering his presence. You might have different people with different responsibilities that serve the congregation as a group. So that is also valid and extremely important. But then you have to balance that with how do we serve each other? How do we interact? How do we give a kind word, a thought, to communicate, to do good? God, the Bible in Hebrews lists these as a part of the kind of spiritual sacrifices that we offer. So you have man to God, then we also have man to man. Our social environment, our congregational interactions, how we are able to realize when somebody is hurting. Sometimes it does not mean you're going to know all the right things to say or the right words to say or whatever the things to do, but sometimes just for somebody to know that they are not alone. Just for somebody to know that there is somebody who is willing to listen to me, who will sit down, and even if you say, boy, I really didn't know what to say to you, then at the very least, the person is comfortable knowing that there is somebody on my side who is willing to just simply present an opportunity for me to just be able to open and to speak of the things that are affecting me. I include also, and again, and then we'll shortly be going into discussion, how do we also serve things? I included this. Because we have to interact with things. And by things, I'm just lumping up everything, including the church building, and the instruments them, and the microphone, and the chair them, and your house, and the furniture, and all of these things that become part of the support services that are part of our worshiping of God, the furniture, the things for which we have to do fundraising, the things for which we have to make sacrificial offerings and giving and so on and so forth. All of these become a part of the package called worship. So we're going to worship by giving. We're going to worship in the giving of our time and how we spend that time, whether in the service itself, as well as how we spend it in the service of people and interacting with people. And all of this becomes a part of what we are, that is necessary for us to be balanced. All right. And so therefore, brothers and sisters, I cannot just open some main points, not complete, not exhaustive, not in any way, shape, or form, trying to perfectly do and cover every item, that can be covered by this topic, but enough to get you to start to think and to get you to start to just look at what you're doing, look at your practice, and to ask, are there things that are really going wrong in my life that I need to rebalance how I do things, including your mentality? Because sometimes the issue is a mental imbalance. And I'm not talking about mental illness per se. It may be a focus. And so therefore, every now and then we have to rebalance ourselves, including the renewing of the mind, the examining of our attitudes, of our thought processes, and to be able to say, Lord, This mentality has served me well these years. It has brought me from point A to where I am now. But where you are taking me and the vision and the purpose for which I'm called, you are very kind of anxious because you don't believe the mentality that what took you to where you are can carry you to where you need to go. And you may well be right. So what do we do under such circumstances? We ask the Lord to rebalance us, to examine us. David said it perfectly. Search me, O Lord, know my heart. Try me, know my thoughts. Every now and then we have got to ask him to search me. There may be some things that are added weight that need to come off. There may be some things that in the running of the race of life, and in running of this race of life with patience, we may be carrying too much weight based on the journey we're on. So we need to rebalance our responsibilities. There may be times we have to just stand down from some of the whole heap of, kind of, what somebody call it the tyranny of the urgent. Hey, whole heap of things to be done, everything to be done yesterday. And therefore you just stress. You're just in a state where you don't have time to pray. There are times you're going to have to say, you know what, I need a break. And you just take a break. Some of you maybe need to take a vacation. Take a 2-week rest. Go somewhere where Peony Wally fly. And go somewhere where you can sleep without worrying whether the boss will come shout at you or not. And your body, the tension, the tremor, all of the, you can relieve yourself of stress because you're seeking to rebalance how you do things. And so the matter of balance is what we're going to find everywhere, every day. And it's how we are built. It's just standing upright and walking from point A to point B. The very first thing you know is that you have to keep your balance. Okay. Because you're now operating in 3-dimensional space, and therefore spatial orientation is required. And as a result of that, you just do not fall flat on your face. You have to be able to keep your balance. And so it's common to us. Your financial balance, your emotional balance, your spiritual balance, balance within the family, balance, again, depending on the needs to different age groups. You have to be able to be sensitive enough to know, where do I need to pay more attention at this point in time? Do I dole it out evenly? Or is it that based on whatever this child of a certain age is going through, they might need more attention right now. But later on, the focus will shift to another one as their needs also change. And so, brothers and sisters, we have introduced the topic. I hope that we have begun the conversation. And I hope that in doing so, that even your Sunday school and during the course of the month, you can start to reason with one another. You can start to raise some issues. You can start to ask some questions and start to see the degree to which we can help each other. But I'm just appreciative of your attention. And I believe we can, open up. I'm going to try to turn on the video again. I hope I'm not. If I'm still distorted, then you can. So,
The quality is still bad, sir. You're still breaking up. You're still breaking up with the.
All right. So what I would suggest, if we're gonna have a discussion, is perhaps somebody, a moderator, have persons just voice or just note questions in the chat or comments, so that, and then you might just want to then pass it on so that we can, we can discuss it. But but sometimes there can be a danger if you just simply open the mics, because I've seen situations where you might have untoward persons who try to disrupt what you're doing. So I'm generally a little bit cautious in that. So my suggestion would be, for comments or for questions, they can be perhaps typed into the chat, and then our moderator will take and read them out. But thank you everybody for your kind attention. I'm just so sorry. As I said, it just happened to be peak hour down my neck of the woods, and it looked like, especially what is going on, other activities, the network was a little bit slow, so it distorted. And then because I realized it's only after we began because I could have tried a digital network or just straight flow, but I would have had to come off, and then I don't know, for instance, how easy to get on back. But I know it was a little bit sacrificial for you to just operate, but but God bless you, and thank you for your very, very kind attention.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Elder Morris.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Lyndon Johnson. Wow, wow, wow. You had us thinking. You had us thinking. You touched so many points from the creation of God and the God's intention.
Yes.
And to what we should be doing based on how God created this earth. And you said that is a part of the process, and if we don't manage, we are going to be in dire straits. Basically, that's what you're saying. And really, really appreciate your talk, sir. And of course, I know you have a lot more to say, and you touched on many points, but we're going to be opening up the floor. And I do trust that you having touched all of these points, there still are people who would want to get some more personal questions. Not exactly personal, because let me say some of our personal questions, you might be very surprised. There are a lot of persons going through it. So yes, ask your personal question.
Oh, yes.
Ask your personal question.
Oh, yes.
One of the first things I want to do, so we're going to be asking Sister Marsha to go through, and I think Sister Anna, yes, go through the chat and read the questions. So we're going to be asking everybody to post your questions on the chat, and we'll try to take them as quick as possible. All right, so one of my first question to you, sir.
Yes.
Is based on your experience, do you think, especially given that, there's so much demand on our personal time in today's day and age, demand coming from, very positive demand or even negative demand for our time. Man, sometimes we wonder if the 24 hours in the day is good enough. I'm not talking about just people who are working, just everybody. Whether you have a job or not, we find ourselves paying a lot of attention to some other things, very important things in our lives, in our surroundings, in our family, in our school, everything. Do you think that we are, as general, balancing the time and giving God the time he deserves? Based on your general, and what are some of the things we can do to balance out that?
Right. All right. So the answer, just again, based on observation and based on one's own restlessness, because I always say, Lord, how can I be better? How can I do more? How can I? And I would just on the face of it say no. And I would say that maybe sometimes we need to look at how do we look at some of the things that are apparently urgent, but then realize, because every now and then you have to do some mental exercises to accept that not everything that look or feel urgent is important. That's one. Two, also that sometimes people ball out, not every pan that knock. That's how I say it, sir. That you have everyone go to the sound of it. There may be times you have to just back off and then start to assess in yourself what are the things that are truly important. But then now this assessment as it relates to giving time to God is at multiple levels, because remember we pointed out the issue of the private time. There are times when we just have to just put on some stuff, just go walk in the woods, or go find a little corner, or just go to a place where God can deal with you as an individual. There are times when you have to get up early. Some people do well when they get up early. Some, like me, cannot do well and stay up late. So I would maybe sometime maybe watch news, some other stuff, maybe grab a nap. But then I find sometimes when the place is quiet, maybe sometime in the 11 to maybe 12:31 bells, I find it when the house is quiet, that's what I sometimes sit down and read or pray or do various things that people might run, they might not even realize you are doing it, but it is a big part of what brings is your learning and preparing. So many people do believe that it is in response to a particular topic or a subject that you prepare. I generally don't do that. I just simply try to prepare as a person. And I find that often it is in that personal growth and in the person. So I often say to people, you know what I'm here to do? I'm just allowed to eat something off of my plate because I'm here to tell you, I'm just like you, going through the same thing I go through, but this is where I'm now located, and this is where God has moved me, and therefore let me see to what extent I can assist you in going a little further down the road from where you are. Recognizing that there is indeed that, and I said afraid, the tyranny of the urgent. One whole heap of things, everybody wants something done yesterday, some impossible deadlines. And if you don't mind sharp, it's sometimes like you feel like you've been stretched out of measure. But one of the things that always keep me very sober, Brother Tony, is this issue. If you knew that today is going to be your last day on earth, what would you be doing with it? And every now and then, if you force yourself to try to answer that, I suspect that is not just trying to reach work early are going to be your priority. It is not merely trying to go do something that somebody else wants done based on their agenda and based on their demands, and not necessarily as it relates to you, your needs, and your relationship with God. I suspect that if we start to pay some attention to some of these little details, what is it that is lacking in my life? Where are the areas that I need help and strengthening in? And then now to start to say, okay, now what is it that I need to do to get the outcome that I desire? You're going to find that all of a sudden you start to create different priorities, and you start to look at life in the context of purpose, of vision, of some of the critical things that need to get done. And so therefore, the order in which things get done may change. In fact, some things may just drop off of your list because some of the things that you were kind of killing yourself over, trying to figure that boy, and many of these are also please people. You know, many of them are, you just, all right, let me say something, Brother Tony. No, none of you nobody try this at home. This is what Lyndon Johnson do. And if anybody cuss me, make them cuss me. I remember once I was invited to a place to do a presentation. And it turned out that you know, near the time I was really not well. I was feeling sick. And the place I was supposed to go some long distance from where I live. So I had to drive a couple hours to be able to go there. And I did not think in the state I could do that. I would have been a danger to myself, a danger to other road users or whatever, and not necessarily be able to do what you need to do neither, because if you're sick, there are certain things you're not going to do well. And so I said to the person, I said, boy, you know, say, I really can't come in. And I explained to them as best as I could how sick I felt. The person said, boy, Brother J, you have to come. Right? Brother Lyndon, what do you mean? You have to come. We need you to come. What are we going to do if you don't come? No. Remember, I'm sick, you know? And for this person, their demand for me to provide the content they need was clear to me that they had little or no regard for my safety or my well-being. So I get vexed. So that's what I said, don't try this at home, nobody. Right? Leave this up to Brother J. I said to the person, I'm vexed now, you know. I said, hold on 1 second. If on the way towards you, because of how I feel, me drop asleep in the car or feel woozy and blackout and crash and dead, where I go do? The person say, well, we'd have to find somebody else. I say, good. So I'm going to plan to crash and dead, go find somebody else. No, that was harsh, you know. Right? But it was totally unreasonable because the demand that was being made, I just was not in a position to provide it. But as far as the other person was concerned, my well-being was not priority for them. They had a service, they had a schedule, and in that schedule, they had a slot that I needed to come fill. And I realized that no, at some point in time, you have to know when you have reached a certain limit, you're not able to. And you have to just be honest about it. And hopefully, we can be an understanding community of people who can then be able to realize that, boy, you know, it's not every day that man has served well. It's not every day you can be just at the same place, because sometimes the person is just not in a position to be there. Sometimes what the person needs is some solitude, some moments, you know, in a solitary place where just gotta make man, you know, because of just what they face. Amen.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for clearing up that point. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so we have to just assess ourselves and
Yes.
know who we are and know what to chew and what to bite off and what to not to bite off.
Yes.
And balance ourselves. Thank you very much, sir. God must, regardless of the situation you are saying, we must recognize that God must get his part. And we have to make sure that we do that. Thank you very much. Sister Missionary Clark.
Yes, we have a question in the chat privately. It says that you spoke about sacrifice, but it's 5 years since COVID and the church is still not back to normal. The passion for being in service and participating during the week seems limited due to life priorities. You also mentioned management. How can we as a church adapt to the changing needs of people while still encouraging commitment and active participation?
That's awesome in terms of the question and the quality and the depth of the question. I really appreciate it. All right. So no, we can debate a couple of things. So I'm always open for correction. No, I'm going to say something here. I do not believe that normal has changed. Pre-COVID, what we call normal, post-COVID, what we call normal, might not necessarily be the same thing. Because, for instance, I'm in Heartease. I'm in a Bible study. No, this is post-COVID, you know. Pre-COVID, us sitting where I'm in my living room in St. Elizabeth, but I'm in a Bible study in Heartease. And there's somebody from Canada, somebody from various persons from various places, Brooklyn, New York, various places, you know, along doing what we would have been doing face to face, but yet we're able to do it on the use of technological platforms. It is something we have to recognize that has changed. So part of the question is, do we attempt in order to define what is normal for the church to go back to the days when we didn't know about Zoom? And what we usually have is a scheduled meeting that required that people would come to the building. Or do we not realize, well, you know what? COVID has taught us some things, you know, that we can be having a Bible study in Heartease. The Bible teacher is in St. Elizabeth. There are students in Toronto, Canada, in Brooklyn, New York, in Florida, in London. Well, not London, maybe for them now, they're 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, or whatever. You know, but various places of Jamaica, maybe of the Caribbean. And all of a sudden, what we might have lost in terms of the people in our community within a certain reach and range, coming physically into our church building, and I'm not taking away anything away from face to face, because there will be at least at certain intervals where we need to be doing that. But what I've realized is there's an underutilized power that COVID has opened up to us. It is called reach, global impact. And therefore, how do we assess the quality of what we do, the content that we're able to deliver, the how of that delivery? How do we harness some of our young people? Sorry, who are given to IT and are, you know, you can't get them head out of the phone. How do we take that energy and that technical know-how and convert it to animations, to convert in Bible stories, to take on life? How do we get people to use AI? the extent it's available. Sorry. And to be able to generate ways and means that allow points that we're trying to make to be more effectively made. Content that need to be shared become much more, the quality issues become much higher. We're able to get activity from our young who are technologically inclined, and we get them to start to formulate our Bible studies, to put together PowerPoint, or to put together animations, or to put together various other doodlings and whatever other means of delivery that get them engaged so they don't feel, because the pace at which this generation is moving. Part of the problem is that most of what we're doing is too slow for them. So sometimes when you're there trying to explain a point, the man already Google where I say, he already have a AI chat GTP spit out one long essay. That's what you try to say, beyond what you try to say. And the student is right before you, and you don't realize that. So there may be ways that we have to consider what we call the new normal. And to look at, okay, Lord, when this was the case, this was how we were able to be effective and operate. How can we create blended situations, merge situations? How can we create a new scenario wherein we can be much, much more effective, far-reaching, and powerful based on what COVID has taught us? Because I can tell you for sure that I have learned a lot, and I'm trying to reinvent who am I, how I do things, bearing in mind that what would be normal for me in the past have its own limitations. But now, if I can, based on what COVID forced us to do, which are a lot of online thing. So some people want to abandon online and go back to just in person. I say in person have certain virtues and qualities and strengths, but I do not think we should have, because just like tonight, under what set of circumstances are we able to go across, barriers of borders, of countries, of continents, and still be as effective as if we were in the same room? So I think we need, as a church, to start to have some very serious conversations about the new normal. I think we, as a church, need to start to look at our technology infrastructure. And what is it we need to do with the skill sets we have available to give us the best opportunity to present to the world our best content? Remember, in the past, there were some limitations for languages. There are certain barriers. If you don't have an interpreter, somebody will chat along with the preacher, or so on and so forth, then you cannot get across to a group that may be speaking a different language from you. But now we're having things that translate what you are saying, so that I'm talking as normal in English, but it is being delivered in another language to an ethnic group for whom English is not the tongue in which they live and operate. And this can happen for multiple languages. So there are certain things that have been open to us that we need to really and truly ask some of our young, college age high schoolers to start to tell us what the full range of what this thing can do. But that's what we're trying to do in our local assembly, is to get somebody young to start to educate somebody elderly what them phone can do. We're starting to look at even some of the things we do together, prayer meetings. How can we have group prayer meetings where an elderly who is shut in can join into a prayer meeting, because you are doing it over a platform that the elderly in their home and somebody else at another place and somebody else at another place can now have a cell meeting or a prayer meeting, and it is just as if they were in the same room. So what I think is we need to start to just back off, just remove the emotional entanglements that would have tied us to our yesterdays, and then to start to ask, okay, Lord, based on what we now have in our hands, what are we supposed to do? And to explore it to its conclusion, and you may well find that there are some real great and awesome opportunities that will give us worldwide reach across ethnic groups, across language barriers, and it allows us to deliver content in ways that can be explained in different scenarios, pictures, in video footages, in animations, in various ways of, art forms and so on, music form and so on. And so I think we need to look at all of the combination of the foregoing. How do we, for instance, Jamaica as a little beanie, well, no, let me rephrase it. The continent called Jamaica have a worldwide cultural influence. And it's true. In reggae, Jamaica, and in various other cultural ways, we punch way above our weight limit. No. Is it possible that as a church, we can start to look at the full range of creative capacities that are available to us and start to use these as part of the platform for delivery of the gospel? And I'm not necessarily saying to sacrifice standards or whatever it is, but how do we deliver in media, in content, that a person who is not used to the inside of our building can appreciate the content and the message we carry to the extent it can affect them positively and can actually allow them to change who they are, as is the intent of the gospel. So I don't know if I've done justice to your question, the question, our PhD question, but I've tried. Thank you, sis.
Well, I think the person who asked the question is pleased with the response. Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any more questions in terms of balance or anything that we'd like to ask Dr. Johnson? If you're not able to chat, type it in the chat if you want to raise your hand so that I can acknowledge you. Or if you'd like to put it in the chat. I don't know if you're still okay with going on the same topic of, using technology. But then when we use all this technology in our services, how do we, balance to not have people sitting down, watching us or watching the services and not physically coming to church? How do we maintain that balance now, sir? If we put our best foot forward and present, the gospel as, but how do we balance in having the members actually?
No, I was laughing about the answer I thought about. Serve food.
How do we serve food?
You hear the answer? You hear the answer?
Serve food.
Serve food. In other words, all right, so one of the things that we are going to be, every now and then we have a thing called a potluck. Where as a church, we eat together. Start to think of things that can be done online. You can't serve the food online. People have to come to church, come eat it. In other words, there may be other ways. It may be afternoons where you go have as I said, sometimes the church eat together. There are times when, as a church, we just, we want to say, okay, we take a football, make the kids, space availability and so on, make them run up and down. There are certain things that you cannot do online. And these are things that people find pleasure in doing. So, in other words, to merely say, come on, get up and come face to face for the sake of face to face, have its merit, but sometimes if the activity that you're going to do is what people really appreciate and want to get done and want to be a part of, then it becomes very easy for them to make the effort to not just tune in to whatever is being streamed, not just to stay in the comfort of their homes. God, do remember, people, they tuning in to what is being at home, what is being done while they're at home is a very powerful thing, because man can their church and say run up and down in all in yard clothes. I'm saying my digging him and him have him something the next time I watch church service. I'm just giving some wacky examples. But it can be that people have discovered in the new normal, that you looking about stuff in your home, you can be working on stuff, but you're still tuned into a church and you're enjoying the worship. No, we need to figure out ways that will overwhelm that in terms of people's desire to be together. So I just use it, and I was not being flippant, by the way, because if you try, just, all right, we every now and then keep a potluck. So let me tell you what, so as a church, so the church, we're cooking rice and peas. So we're going to put on whoever it is. So we're on one big old pot of rice and peas, because you can have a standard pot of rice and peas. You can have a big old pot of soup, so that those, then no, within the church, all right, you're going to dessert. So you're going to carry cake, you're going to carry pudding, you're going to carry whatever it is, that some people are assigned to that. You're going to carry meats. So over there, so is the chicken people, them 3 or 4 of them. Over there, so would be your fish, and over there, so the pork and the curry goat and whatever. So you have the meat set. Then another time, though, you might have the salads and the veg, them and whatever the thing. You know what goes into a range of these things. And sometimes people have different, speciality that they volunteer to bring. So when you come now, it is a marvelous experience. People come at very little additional expense to the individual. You end up with a big old feast. And during that, you are sharing meals. Everybody's thing there. You can have performances by the kids. You can have little, various things that get done that allow you to build bonds as family. No, these require effort. And sometimes it may take and present some expenses. But we know as a church have to be prepared to say, boy, if this is the outcome I want, then this is the price I would have to be prepared to pay. So we are attempting at least once per quarter, like a fifth Sunday type of thing, or at least once every, but at least we want to have a quarterly where as a church we come together. So we do other things other times, but we eat together, just physically sit down and eat together. And what you find out is as people come and so on, then those people you find that will support, that kind of activity are generally going to be quite happy to come out at that time because of the social, bonds that are there. No, that's an example I gave. There may be other things. So for instance, we're looking at ways, how can we look at literacy issues? How can we help people who are kind of a little bit behind in terms of their, their literacy, their numeracy? Can a church put on anything that will cause people to come? Or, as I said, it's not exhaustive, and I'm not trying to snap my finger and to provide something that works for Heartease. You're going to have to think about your location. What is it that will be preventing people from coming out? And then to be able to start say, all right, how can we countervail this? Can there be business projects that the church can plan, group things, so people can get an income if they are not working, or there may be an income to a certain department, or an income for certain things to be done in the church, whether building fund or whatever. But by the nature of the activity, it requires people to come out. And we start to mix things together. One of the things that we have been thinking, and again, I expose my thought to you. You may agree, you may disagree. But we have been thinking that more and more we're moving towards using our Saturdays as kind of as I've been saying, no, people, we want to do it. If you have to wash and cook and clean, do it early Saturday morning, because in the Saturday afternoon, we want everybody coming out. In that coming out, we want rather than have a weeknight youth meeting, which is very difficult, especially when kids have to get up at 5 a.m. and get school bus at 6, which are so, how your school located various places. What if we are able to have our youth fellowship Saturday afternoon? While that go on, our ladies over there saw me, our men over there saw. Then we have a football or whatever it is, kind of sports program in the yard. And part of it is that the boxes in the church, just like how the Bugayaga people, them, when they go keep them on deaf way. Why can't we turn on with gospel music on the top of Heartease Hill? I remember those at church yard busy, right? And put out the thing out there, and we sit down and we have a happy bunch of people. I'm trying to, because some of what we normally do in the first kind of structure of the church, when people live in small villages, generally walk to work and walk to church. It's kind of different when have children. Some of them have to take buses, travel great distances. Some might get up, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get us up for 5:30, 6 o'clock bus to reach school by 7:30 and them kind of thing there. It's difficult for that child to be at youth fellowship last night up to 10, 11 o'clock in the night, and then if you get up 5 or 4:30 to get a bus. These be some of the realities we face. No, some people will say, as we now move no whole landmark, there's no landmark that says so we must meet. That was what was convenient to us at that point in time. Now, if it remains convenient to you, then do it. If I find, in my opinion, that there may be a problem in that way, so how can we have workarounds? How can we have things so that But all right. So for instance, now, I might find in the community I'm located, boy, we have some parenting issues. So a lot of the youngsters coming to us are going back to homes where there are parenting deficiencies. So you have to know, so okay, what can we as church, our mothers, our fathers, how can we organize things that we then say, all right, we need to, when you come out, so there's a little method to the madness now. When we have our ladies and our men come out and the youth them come out at the same time, we said to the ladies and the men, with them picnic, I need some father, you know? They need some mothers. We need you to be able to show them what it feel like, encourage, speak words of whatever strength and, you know, whatever it is that can assist them to become better persons. You see what I'm saying? And so therefore, what we're trying to do, how can we, in the use of our time, be most effective? Not necessarily satisfy the program, but be most effective in what we are doing, so that at the same time, we also create opportunity to allow us to do other things. So we say, if you usually go and cook your wash your clothes Saturday afternoon, go wash your Friday. Especially if you're a retiree, we said about to come and go market Saturday afternoon. You have the whole week, sit down there. Go at another time. So you free up your day. So when you come, you can become a part of a movement that is giving a certain type of support to people. And so where it will go and how successful it will be, the Lord knows. It is work in progress. It is a part of the post-COVID response that we're contemplating. But I believe that if we have to be the guinea pig, then we will be the guinea pig to see how can we, in this new paradigm, as they call it, be even more effective than we were before the whole, issue of COVID and what it did to the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor. I'm seeing a raised hand by Elder Morris. Elder Morris, you can go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Dr. Linda, Dr. Johnson, yes, I really appreciate the points that you gave a while ago in terms of how we can, and you said food, serve food, which I think is, believe it or not, it sounds simple, but it's a splendid idea. I know that different churches are different pastors are here listening on and so on. But I must tell you though that we need to think about balance in the same way. Serve food, but don't serve food in a box.
All right.
Because the aim of serving food is for fellowship.
That's correct.
I find, sir, that when you serve food in the box, which it is clear that COVID has now brought us into this new paradigm where we are serving food. I mean, everybody throw away the crack we hardly can see crack a yard again. Everybody's serving in box. It's faster or convenient, but what that does is when you serve in box, there are 50% of the people who come take the box and go.
That's correct.
So the aim of the serving food, which is for fellowship, you don't get it.
That's correct.
And therefore, while I agree with you, serve food, I would stretch the point to say.
No, man, I completely agree with you, brother Tony. And indeed, it's an observation because that's true. So if you don't put about people pack up and the old one for my husband and my wife and they pack up 4 boxes and gone.
Right? Yes.
And it defeats the purpose.
Yes,
because what you want is to do it in a set environment where it allows people to be able to interact. You eat, but you talk. And then you can say, all right. In fact, what I always suggest to is when you're having something like that, you have like a we call it kind of church all day. So you may have the first whatever session that you go on with the normal service. Then you might have somewhere you have your food and stuff. And then you may now have a little discussion or a rap session now where people go into issues and problems and stuff that they would maybe want to discuss with as a church group now. So you can have animated discussion, you can have things where people might want to make points. And then by the time all of that is finished by maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock-ish, then people, you go home, but you don't have to come back now for a night service, because you have a full day and a very fulsome day, if I may say. So
Yes.
that's a very and it's something that we have observed, Brother Tony.
Yes. Just to go further in your the answer that you gave, you said that we could make come out on a Saturday evening, and because some people maybe want to get the children. Well, the children have to go out early in the morning, so we have to be careful sometimes with the service in midweek. Now the thing is, sir, while I think the leaders are understanding of that, and when I say leaders, I mean even the department heads and
Yes.
the pastors, some of them are understanding of that. Some of them even go further to say we are not going to keep youth service on Wednesday night or Tuesday night. We're going to keep it on Friday night. So what I'm trying to say is that some of the leaders, departments, and those are online here, those leaders, they are trying to balance.
Yes.
But the problem that they are having is that while they are trying to balance, the people who they are trying to lead are still not balancing.
Mm-hmm.
And think that's why we have this type of talk.
Yes.
They are still not balancing, because yes, the complaint used to be, I have to wake up the children Wednesday morning because Tuesday night, why you keep YP on Tuesday night? The children cannot come out. So the leadership went and changed it to Friday night, and it is even worse.
All right. Well, I think maybe
So I think one of the
right.
things that that really is needed, not just among the leaders, it's among all of us generally, is balancing our time and even our thoughts.
Yeah. And I want to say, Brother Tony, is that shift, let us say for an example, a situation like that, being confronted leads to a change from a midweek to a Friday night, say youth service. That's a reasonable response. And so what I suspect is the issue of educating people into change. This is the C word name change. Easy, right? And this thing called habit. So what may be required is, how can we allow what is going on at young people's service, for instance, the type of activities, the range of things, how people are educated into coming, that the full, sort of not just PR side, but the reward, the whatever sides of the can come into play to assist in supporting it. And sometimes it may take a little time, because people change doesn't come very easily. And sometimes you have to just be at it and at it and at it until almost like a generation, a little set of, kids them start to grow up into it. Some of those are the influencers. Maybe have to start to reach people personally. Some of them, they need, they have to give them responsibilities, tasks to do, things that make it necessary for them to be there. Support structures. What can we do to kind of add some of the kind of support structures to people who are there, so that it kind of make it easier for them to come, but I would say to people, don't be discouraged, because the change don't come easy. I usually use the thing of habit in trying to tell you how difficult change is. HABIT, habit, right? That's how you say it. No, I said to somebody, all right, so somebody have a habit. Cross off the H. So it took some prayer and fasting or whatever it is, but they cross off the H. What left? Habit. So now emphasize the H again. Cross off the A. What left? Bit. Cross off the B. What left? It. No, I kind of playfully use this to tell you, change is difficult. It is done in phases. You shave off and shave off and shave off. And now when you're done to, you think you have done a whole heap, you still have it to contend with. But persistence, cultural migration, mentality, that's where we talk about the kind of the balancing of the rebalancing of the mentality. How do we can ask the Lord to rebalance us in the area of our thinking, of what we do, and the things that are priorities and important. So all of this is a part of the big mix. But don't just say it's not easy. When successful, it's rewarding. But also remember that people can sometimes be fickle. So, you know, everything look like to go well, all of a sudden, bloof, and you say, hold on, I want my while ago, everything does, you know. So we just encourage each other, and that's why I really appreciate like a forum like this, because part of what is happening, you know, is not just that I'm here talking down to anybody. You are also hearing a little bit from my own experience, and you'd have been seeing a little bit of the attempts that we are making to face some of what are the realities. How can we pivot, as them like to say? How can we turn pan the pinhead? How can we start to look at this, or what is that are the critical thing to be done? And then to figure out how do we get it done, you know, irrespective of some of the ways that we're no longer able to physically execute. So I do agree with you, and I think it was work in progress in many respects. And I think we have to use a personal touch where possible. Just talk to people. Maybe if you have a set of people that they might go work the phones, just cut some reminders, just Saturday afternoon or whatever it is, you know, say have the announcements about we're going to go on a youth fellowship on Sunday, previous. We might have start to put in place some people where, all right, okay. Let me say it this way, Brother Tony. And I say just spring to mind as we are talking. There's a phrase used in political circles. All politics is local. No, I'm not going to do a bit matter the political science, this and that. But the interpretation is that people are going to interpret and interact with whatever is this big national good at the level of how does it affect me? What does it mean to me? What will it affect my life? How will it affect my bill, my utility bill, my whatever? And to some degree, I think as a church, we need to start to pay some attention in the extent to which, how can we start to really interact with people at the level, the person level? And it's not easy. Something else happened during the US election. One time I was this to a commentator, and he made a comment, a very seasoned political activist. You need to say something at least 500 times before people hear you. No, it sounds strange, but I realize there's some merit in it. If you have 500 literally each for every little point, because something may come across, you know, may easy and not. But it is talking about this thing called repetition. And sometimes as a church, in order to move on to novelties, we have really not properly conveyed our messages. So maybe sometimes the simple among us really know so we are about that and that in the broad, nebulous sense. But really, when it comes out to the intimate interaction, I don't know if we need to start to really look at the people of the day of the light, maybe not as wise as those of the dark. Them know you take 4 or 5 good points and hammer them over and over and over and over and over. That are in a lie. It comes across as that's in the political world, you know. And that's what we saw in certain elections. All something will not go so because it's been repeated so often. After a while, people accept it as truth. And people accept its presentation of signs of confidence. Right? And it was in that context that somebody comments, when you just have to, your message, for your message to resonate, for people to appreciate what you're trying to do, you have to keep at it over and over and over. Or when you think you're being, it's nauseating, maybe the man just hear it. All this while they say it, you know, mean him I hear because of his own, you know. So I appreciate this kind of forum, and let us start to pray. Let us start to think. Don't necessarily, and I use a phrase during the presentation to talk about not operate according to somebody else's prescription. So if I should borrow Brother Tony's eyeglasses, and become say, boy, yeah, me more look like Tony, can make him look really, you know. No, me go down buck up now a light most because that prescription correct a defect in his sight. I might not have that same situation. So if I try to operate using his prescription, it may cause a deformity in my functioning. And so what I would suggest is that as a people, we start to say, all right, Lord, what is it that we, even if you are all part of holiness born again, you know, but what may be affecting people in a salve in terms of somebody who are going on a rush and some of the street violence and so on, might not be affecting people who are Christian. Or if a Christian might not be affecting people in a porous or down a Heartease or whatever, maybe the location itself may have its own little nuances that these have to be borne in mind in terms of finding solutions. And so therefore, what we can say, Lord, just teach me. guide my hand. I've not been this way before. And so therefore, if you favor me, then please don't leave me alone. And then in this journey, be patient with me as I learn and as I try my best, you know? And that's the best I can say, because, and in this matter, because I can tell you, Brother T and the big group that is with us, every now and then I go, Lord, I say, Lord, I'm a child. In this matter that I face, I'm a child. Teach me. Right? I'm coming before you as one, not knowing what to do. I remember just a special prayer I made. Virgin, I mean, this is not no big old, you know, whatever, pickaxe stick, clobbering gospel type of thing. I remember praying while lying down one day, and I adopted what is called a fetal position. Some of you might know, you know, there's a certain angle at which you know, and it became a part of my prayer. I said, Lord, I'm praying to you from a fetal position, a position of dependency, a position that I need you, I can't do without. And as the young baby in the womb, this is it. This is how it folds up. Maybe me can't fold up as much because me kind of, you know, the old bone and everything already to it. Right? But I prayed from what, and that became a part of my prayer. I said, Lord, I'm praying to you from a fetal position of dependency, the El Shaddai relationship. And by the way, for those here just for Bible study, well, you could talk some Bible study in this. El Shaddai means the breast giver. El Shad is Hebrew for the breast. So when Abraham interacted with God as the Almighty God, the El Shaddai, he was as a babe, a newborn babe, interacting with its mother, where everything from what gives you immune coverage to everything, your hydration, your nutrients, everything, including maternal instincts, is available. And so that's El Shaddai in the whole new world where you are, says the Lord unto Abraham. I've taken you to Ur of the Chaldees. I've moved you into a new world that you're not even, I'm the one showing you where to go. And in this, I want you to know, I am El Shaddai. I'm your breast giver. And that is comforting, because it touches in so many ways. And it means that, you know, inadequacies, he's well aware, but it's compensated for. That's not part of the balance, you know. There's something that compensates for what I don't know. There's something that compensates for what I've no experience with. There is something that even for me in this situation for the very first time, I can trust that this is not news to God. So I can say, Lord, hold my hand right here. So hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand, you know? And this is just a posture that we have to adopt. It's not a know-it-all thing, because in many of the things that we're facing, many of the uncertainties we're facing, we have not been this way before. But the good news is, as we face the Jericho, the day before we have to start the active warfare, there met a man who said, sorry, as captain of the Lord's host, I'm come. And that is good news for us. We're not alone.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Clark, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. So we have Sister Sherry Ann Anderson, and we also have a question in the chat. Let me take the one in the chat, and then we'll close off with Sister Sherry Ann, just in case she's the last person. So the question in the chat is asking, how do we strike a balance with the effectiveness of online service without being too programmed, where we lose effectiveness of the service? We're asking, how do we strike a balance in not being too programmed with our online services?
Yeah. And that's a delicate balance, because in other words, all right, how much pepper is too much or too little? You know, I'm just thinking of that in the sense that there's going to be a taste sensitivity that is specific. And so it becomes a judgment call, because it's often very difficult for a one size to fit all, and for the one single, because you go have a single kind of interaction, a program, let us say, that is going to go on. And yet within that, we are catering to people from various backgrounds, various technological competencies, from various technical and whatever, just grammatical understanding, attention span. So it becomes that. So one of the things that you say, all right, how can we kind of minimize the length of time it takes? Because there are also people with different level of credit on them phone or different data capabilities, you know. How do we adapt? In a normal circumstance, you'd have been seeing my face or part of my facial expression will be part of my presentation. You know, we talk and we laugh and a thing. But now we have to be interactive because my thing popped down in the night. Yeah, my wife, whatever it is, look at the peak hour thing cause my service provider to slow down the thing. And as a result, we have to do a voice thing for removing the distortions. And that required now a kind of special effort in how you speak, in the manner of speech, in modulating your speech so that you can get people, you know, be kept abreast and up to date what you're doing. But it don't mean that some people didn't drop asleep because of their own attention span. So there are going to be some things that we just have to stop worrying about. We're going to have to, what I normally suggest, and this is what I have also been doing, and I don't know if you realize it, Brother Tony, all right, I'm going to turn on my video. Just to show you something, and if it is distorted, I will show doing in recent times is in preparing like stuff like this. I come to say, all right, anything we can hold for one full scap, we call it typing sheet. That means maybe, you know, maybe in a couple of sections. I'm going to leave it out. No, that sound, what would Brother J just say? Because I have to be practical with regards to people's attention span, people's data capability or data availability, especially when they do it online. And then when it come on to, you know, the kind of technological thing, how can we compress as much information in a way that people appreciate it in biteable chunks so that we do not overwhelm people? And it don't, you know, but it's really something that we have to practice. We're learning. And I can say to you, it's a very delicate balancing act because you will never be able to have a uniformity of appreciation for what you're doing because different people, based on where they are and their own interests or connectivity to the topic, will appreciate it to different levels. But we kind of hope for a kind of type of thing, a middle ground, and hopefully we are able to offer benefit to everybody. But we will just accept that we'll never be perfect, and just accept that there will always be somebody who did not get exactly what they wanted, and I just saw it go, you know. And that's the best I can do. But we have to just try to look through the eyes or through the person on the other end of the interaction. What would I need to do to be able to help this person, you know, to the best of my ability? And what is it that I'm hoping at the end of it that this person will leave with? And then we try to do what is necessary to make that happen. But it may be that there can be, you know, different type of interaction, musical background, different. Sometimes you can have in terms of, you know, this shared screen things. And personally, when it comes to that PowerPoint presentation and the kind of mechanical elements of things, I often do. I kind of prefer the you know, the kind of back and forth thing and the discussion. But for some people, it is they are more organized and more structured doing a presentation like that. I don't take anything away from such a person. It may not be how I do it, because maybe my mannerism, my what you call it, the turn of you know, expressions and so on, may be effective in interacting in a certain oral sense to people, whereas for somebody else they might need no you know, and just be able to structure what they do a different way. But we just have to just try to do our best, put the best foot forward, and just hope that and also take the feedback, you know, that people relate to us and to see, okay, good. So this is what it came across as. So now in future I can change it or tweak it in the following ways, and we put in place those changes. And we learn, and we learn, and we learn.
Okay, Pastor. We have one question, and I think we're wrapping up. Sister Cherry Anderson can go ahead, unmute.
Holy greetings to everyone. I'm Sister Cherry Anderson from New York. My question is, Dr. Linden has touched about children waking up early in the morning or so forth to get bus to go to school and such the light, and like youth service that used to be like on a Monday, Tuesday, changed to switch to Friday to accommodate them. I know that we're living in a different era, but what is it that makes it so hard, like extremely hard in this time, that it is so hard for parents to get children up in the morning early to go to school and to say to go to youth service on a Monday or a Tuesday night? And because I remember in my time, and I know we're living in a different era, yes. In the morning, when I have to get up early in the morning, I have to go to the standpipe to catch water, take it up the hill, do chores, walk from Heartease to Villa Road School, and still get to school on time. Back then, youth service used to be on a Monday night. And you remember you have service Sunday night. And, it was not so much of a burden or stress in those times. So what is it really? Why is it so hard in this time for children to get to youth service on a Tuesday, a Monday or a Tuesday, or church on a whole? And even on Friday, when it changed to Friday, young people still do not come out to youth service. It's still a problem. So can you help me to understand, what is it? What is it? Why it is so hard in this time for that?
All right, and we'll not be able to maybe give all the specific reasons in a precise way. Some things that may be apparent. So number one, you have a whole lot more congestion in terms of the competition for time, the competition for attention. So for instance, in some of the days that you'd have alluded to and some of the kind of experiences then, maybe at that time you have one television station with broadcast about from 6 to 12, 6 p.m. to 12 midnight and lock off, right? Then there weren't anything called cable news. We never had anything named smartphone. We didn't have the kind of things named Game Boys and them kind of something there, which now start to compete for the attention and the time of the target group. And in addition to that, we never have the whole issue of social media and how people socialize. You have communities, and you have shared, Sister Cherry, that you have a place where people collect water. Then you have a place where you walk, go to the school, and sometimes you have a shop down there. So and maybe chances are when you pick up the water, get up early to do that, you're headed for school by about say 8 o'clock. And so therefore the distance to calculate between where your house is, where the school is. So by maybe 7, depending on the length of the walk, or 7:30 or whatever it is. And sometimes they pack a lunch and whatever it is. No, you may live in an age now where somebody who live in Black River have to go to the cartridge. That can't walk go, right? And the bus that is gonna go up there is gonna drive at the pickup point. It's leaving that pickup point. Bear in mind the distance it's going to travel to reach school for 7:30 or 8 o'clock. It have to be picking up from 6:30. Not 6:30, I'm sorry, 5:30. Let us say in the Black River area, you have about an hour to hour and a half for that kind of thing. So some of the dynamics have changed. Some of what is competing for people's time and attention have changed. The very nature of the framework in which a lot of our children are growing up is different. Now, what does this mean for us as parents? It means it's more challenging because many of us as parents and grandparents have to be putting out a whole lot more effort to try to get certain values across, to try to get certain things inculcated to our children, which maybe in the earlier days, because the community have a certain way of behaving and it's close-knit, then a lot of times what not have a home, you actually learn it in your community. Because elder so down the road, if you ever misbehave and him see him, whop your bottom, right? And you can't go and go talk because you're going to get a second version of it down there, right? Whereas nowadays, if you attempt that to somebody's picnic, a police could have come in your yard. And so you find that the issue of the village that grows the child is not necessarily the fulsome way it is being done anymore, where we have a common set of values. So anyway, the child going to work up the same set of values. Now that child may go over this, and what he may encounter over the house then is totally different from go over your house. So in fact, many of us know you can't even make your picnic go over the house. They can't even go over there. He might go broke out. Can go over the house there. You is totally different from the values you have at your house. The systems that are some of them legal systems, some of them are just cultural changes. Some of them are where people living in Jamaica are exposed to changes and cultural values in another country. Your child sitting in a Sunday school and you think embody their church. You know when brain there? Australia or wherever I'm phone. And yet we as parents sometimes see the child sit before us and say, yes, he's faithful and beautiful. He's sitting right before me. His so body there before you, the brain gone. So we have to be looking, how can we? And it's not a trivial matter. And Sister Cherry, so thank you so much for raising the point. It is something that is worrying. It is something that as parents you keep wondering, God, have I done enough? Have I prepared my children for the world that you have got to cut the rope, you have got to let them go, you have got to live them life. And yet there's not that guarantee that anything you were teaching them at home and that they might go out there with. Sometimes you may be surprised to know that what you thought would have been the common value of your values of your home are not necessarily values that are carried by your children. So we have to pray for one another. I have to just say, to my brethren over there, our sister, and say, you are not alone. You see, or sometimes if you say, Lord, you just feel like you're a fish out of the water based on the issues you face. Sometimes I feel away there too. Sometimes the other person feel away there. Why we have to be very cautious or we're critical of the other parents is because today for him, tomorrow for you. Because some of the ways you may think that what that man faces is only him going to face it till you come to your home. And then you realize the feeling of helplessness when you know if you react to a scenario that you were never prepared for. No school, no class, no keep. Tell you how to deal with whatever it is. And in this matter, as I hope is the spirit of the kind of present what we're interacting in, it is we're in this thing together. There may be some things that occur to me, Mr. McCabe, say, your brother Tony, say so and so and so and so, and maybe it's a suggestion that may well be effective for him where he is, or a suggestion may have will help me, and we not feel to say, boy, if Tony, make it Tony a suggestion, in church I go grow faster than my church, and so boy, I can't make that happen, I go look like seminar and try. No, these are some of the things we have to dig out, because no one of us have the answer. No single one of us will have all the vantage points and the viewpoints that will prepare us for everything we'll need to know or do. So Sister Cherry, pray for us. And when you lay hands by your grandpicnic, remember say you have some grandpicnic there for Jamaica where you need to pray for too. And so pray for the whole of them, because the same thing we face, all of us. But thanks very much. And thanks for making the effort to join us from way up, up north. Thanks, Zoom. If I never have COVID, you'd have to wait, I don't know. Sorry, Satcher, I have to rub you. But brethren, let us pray for each other. Let's pray each other in prayer. And let us, I've been talking about the concept of co-parenting, one thing I've realized is that I may be telling my children or my, day after day after day about a book leaf, then whatever, and it kind of like a water run off a duck back. And Sister Cherry come and tell the same exact thing me say, the same words me use, and your child jump, man, Dad, you don't see what, man? Are the biggest revelation in the world, right? And at the same time, but you say, but hold on. But wasn't it the same thing I was saying to you all this while? But when me said it's all like a Mandarin me attack, right? It's all like me attack German. But when somebody else come and say the exact same thing, it's this big old new discovery. So how do we deal with it? Me need you to talk to my son or my daughter. Me need to talk to your son or your daughter. So the different voices help to reinforce one another. And sometimes some nuances and some things I might notice, you might not. So I may be able to be of a certain type of help. And we just have to accept that we all need help. Those are my few words in Jesus' name. That's what I'm usually saying at your time. Tell us that you're going to teach me that.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pastor Lyndon Johnson. We are so grateful that you took the time out to join us tonight. We're almost at 10 o'clock. I'd like
Whoa.
on behalf of the Wholeness Born Again Church, Apostolic Church in Heartease, on behalf of our pastor, Pastor Bishop Keith Morris, and the Sunday School Department headed by Sister Sandra Malcolm, Vice President Brother Jeffrey Charlton, and the team of the Sunday School Department, all the saints, and all our online visitors, all our online viewers, all our online participants. We want to say a very, very, very warm thank you for taking the time, the effort in preparing, to speak to us today. We took notes, and we will remind ourselves that feelings can fail us. If our mood is affected, then our posture will be affected. And God has a way of maintaining his balance. I like that one. Know when to be mommy, daddy, pastor, bishop, or overseer, evangelist, missionary. Know when to be, a playful little father who can be like a 2-year-old at times. Know when to be a husband, know when to be a wife. Know how to rest. Know how to balance your nutrition, your finances, recreation. Ask the Lord to rebalance us. I'm going to ask the Lord to rebalance me. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm going to ask the Lord to rebalance me, because I realize from time to time, even though we think we have things together, we still need the Lord to rebalance us. And we thank you so much for joining us. We have been warmly blessed. We have been educated. We have been propelled to greatness. And we thank you so much. I would like for our pastor, Bishop Keith Morris, if you are available at this time, just to greet us, any closing remarks, and then we'll have the prayer. Bishop Keith Morris.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings, Bishop.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Dr. Johnson, Elder Morris, and all the Sunday school, the president and the vice president, and all those that are online. We are very happy, very grateful for the seminar tonight. I am unable to pray or whatever because I'm on the road. So I'm going to ask somebody else to offer the prayer because I'm driving on the road. But I'm just saying quickly that I really appreciate the seminar and the lovely words from Dr. Johnson. So we're going to continue to, adopt some of those principles, those things that he spoke about, that we took notes on. It is very, very important. And we're going to ask you all to take something from this seminar tonight as we go. And I know for sure, amen, what Dr. Johnson has said, has always been saying when he always have seminar with us. He's always been giving us some very good thoughts. And so we are grateful for him tonight. So I'm going to ask somebody else to pray, maybe Elder Morris or somebody, because I'm on the road traveling, and so I'm not sure it will cover. But hey, God bless you all in the name of Jesus. And so, God bless you, Dr. Johnson. God bless you, everyone that was online. God bless you, President and Vice President, and all the participants. God bless you all in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop. I will be asking our former president of the Sunday School Department, that is Minister Anthony Mahoney, to just close us off in prayer in Jesus' name.
Praise the Lord, everyone.
Praise the Lord.
I was outside, I was running. Thank God for technology. When I was inside, that having the earpiece, I was outside. Oh, God bless you. And Dr. Johnson, we are grateful for you tonight. And I'm just going to close out in prayer this time. Eternal Father, God, we thank you. Mighty God, for this moment. We thank you, mighty God, for the material, for the content that was brought to us, mighty God, by our pastor, Dr. Johnson. Mighty God, it was informative. Mighty God, and we just thank you for everything, for the research he has done, for how he has delivered. We, mighty God, are greatly impacted. Father God Almighty, tomorrow and through the rest of the week, through the rest of the month, and next month, through the rest of the year. These material, mighty God, we can be guided by them and put them into practice, put them into perspective, and it will do well for our lives, individually, and it will do well for the church community at large. We are grateful, mighty God, for tonight. It was a wonderful night, and we just thank you, Lord, for everything. Thank you for life, thank you for health, thank you for strength. We thank you, mighty God, for this school, mighty God, that was impacted by the presentation tonight, and we are really grateful. And even tonight, mighty God, is about to go for this. God, most of us are already in our home. We are just, mighty God, lifting up on him, mighty God, to guide our lives, guide us through the night from the force of evil, and allow us to be free. Take full control of our lives right now, mighty God, and to leave everything in your hand and fear. God, we know that you're here in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you so much. You can go ahead and greet somebody in Jesus' name.
God bless each and every one of you. God bless you, Dr. Linden. God bless you, Brother Anthony Morris. God bless you, Bishop Keith Morris. God bless you all.
And thank you. God bless you, Sir Cherry. God bless every one of you. And just
God bless.
attention all and God bless much.
God bless you, Dr. Johnson.